Okay, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Folge von Stanley Parable.
Ja.
Und so, wir sind wieder hier. Und wir werden jetzt
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others. So the thought of total solitude was
Noch haben wir noch den
terrifying.
Aufzug, der nach oben fährt.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here. He decided he would walk up to see his boss, hoping that he would find an answer there.
Okay.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's
Ah, kann ich auch
office.
runterlaufen?
Ja, kannst du gleich.
Ah, ich kann auch speichern, sehr schön.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, of admitting that he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, was it really worth taking that
Also ich glaube,
risk?
ist ein.
All because he believed everyone had disappeared? His boss would think he was
Sorry, ich bin
crazy.
nicht ganz bei der Sache dabei.
And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. Everyone I know simply vanishing out of the blue, there's almost no other explanation for it. And a nagging fear began to creep up in his mind. Questions that had been there all along. He just hadn't put his finger on them yet. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he
Ja,
looked
warum kann ich
down?
meine Füße nicht sehen?
Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he
Ja, warum schließen die Türen hinter mir automatisch?
These rooms were starting to look pretty
Warum
familiar.
nur?
Was he just walking around in
Also für
circles?
mich.
Ja, ich laufe im Kreis.
am I? He
Crap.
And the more he found himself unable to answer these questions, the more questions continued to arise, until he came to the issue that had been slowly boiling until he could ignore it no longer. Why is there a voice in my head, dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Suddenly, every door slammed shut. No, Stanley screamed. I need to get out of here. I need to know that there's something out there. I need to know it's not just all in my head. And he screamed and clutched at his skull as the voice grew harsher and the music in the background rose higher and higher. And then, moments before collapsing to the ground, Stanley clenched his fists and screamed to anyone who might be listening, I'm not real! I'm not real! Don't believe any of it! None of it's real! And then everything went black.
Oh mein Gott.
Aber
This is
Alles
the
wurde
story of a woman
schwarz.
named Mariella.
Alles. Die ganze Welt.
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She got dressed, went to work, clocked in, clocked out, and then she walked home. But her walk on this day was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Moments after seeing him, she would turn, run to the nearest police station, and call for an ambulance. But for just a few brief seconds, she merely stood there, unable to move. The tragedy was not the death of a
Selber wie
single
ich, alles
person.
klar.
It was that she would never know this man's story, never hear in his own words what had happened to him,
Weil er
or
mich
what
da
he
liebt.
believed had happened to him. For to know these things
God.
would be to exist inside the head of the man himself. So all she could do was observe from a distance and pity him. But Mariella had places to be and people to meet with, very important people, whose impressions of her would affect her career and indeed the rest of her life. She stood there for only a moment, looking down at the body, and then she ran.
Auch das rennt sie nicht. Okay. Ja, ich hab das doch gespeichert. Hä?
Keine Ahnung.
Warum hat das nicht geklappt? Warte, ich hab doch gespeichert.
Ich kann dir nicht sagen. Scheiße.
Stanley decided to go to the
Okay,
staff
gut, dann
lounge
muss ich da
to
noch
check
mal
on his
dahin gehen.
co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others. So the thought of
Sowas,
solitude
das
was
war ja hier
terrifying to
nur
him.
eine Nebenbei-Sache war, die sie
When
ja schon
Stanley
zeigen,
came
also
to a
die
set
Spiel
of
jetzt gerade
two
nicht rausgetan
prison
haben, weil es ja
doors,
noch
he entered the
immer in
door
der
of his
Engine war,
life.
in der Version der Engine, aber eigentlich keine Verwendung mehr hat.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here. He decided he would walk up to see his boss, hoping that he would find an answer there.
Kann ich sie berühren? Das ist eine Lampe. Und ich hab sie in der Hand. Das ist eine Lampe.
Oh mein Gott, er ist verrückt geworden! Jemand töte Marvin! Ich mag keinen verrückten Menschen.
Coming to
Runter
a
von mir.
staircase,
Runter.
Stanley walked
Raus.
upstairs
Raus
to
aus
his
dieser
boss's
Welt.
office.
Ah,
Entering his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. It was at this point that he began to feel dizzy and a little sick, and even thought he might pass out when suddenly he noticed a keypad next to the filing
Yeah,
cabinet in the corner of his boss's office. Stanley had never seen this panel before and had no idea what combination of numbers would produce any result. In fact, only Stanley's boss knew this, since the panel withheld access to the boss's greatest, darkest secret, and so he had assigned the keypad a combination that only he could possibly know, the number of his freshman dorm number in college, 1957. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
Hä? Ist gleich eingeben oder was?
Du musst E drücken, du musst E drücken. Das ist ja noch in der alten Version draußen ist.
Nein. Ja,
5-7 war es, glaube ich. 5-7, glaube ich.
Stanley just
Nein,
sat
nein,
around
nein,
twiddling his
5-7.
thumbs, trying to input anything on the
5-7, nicht
keypad was
7-5.
useless, since he could never possibly
Okay.
know that the combination was 19.
Nein, du Idiot! 1957.
1, 9, 5, 7.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. Stanley ventured forth into the newly opened passageway. As he drew deeper into the bowels of the building, Stanley had no idea where he was or what this place held. And just as he began to think he might not discover a thing, he emerged into a long room to find rows and rows of monitors, screens with a number above it. Stanley noticed, however, that these were not random numbers, but the number of employees who worked in the building, his co-workers. Even his own number, 427, had a place on the wall. But why a setup so elaborate, he asked. Was this simple surveillance or something even more? And as if in answer to his question, the wall slid open before him, revealing the ultimate truth of the situation. An enormous control panel, Stanley discovered, but not one that controlled simple machinery. Buttons were labeled with emotions: happy, sad. Levers and knobs controlled actions: walking, eating, doing work, or watching TV. Every input on this device monitored not the functions of a machine, but of a human being. And the reality began to sink in. Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a monitor, had been under someone's control, always at the mercy of this machine. Could this have been the only reason employee number 427 was content with his boring job? That a machine had altered his emotions to accept it blindly? He began to feel an unbridled rage, and at the peak of his anger, something happened. A spark. Stanley looked up and saw the generator overhead, still providing some small amount of power to the machine, keeping it alive. and knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running, Stanley moved to the ladder in the back of the room and began to climb towards the rafters.
Oh. Achso, hier ist noch mehr.
Marvin.
Ja.
Mushroom. Bacha. Okay, gut.
Dies
Hast
hat
du dann
man
mal gesagt,
nicht
das ist
erwartet.
heute ultra wichtig. Das ist die ultra wichtigste Aussage meines Lebens.
Was muss ich denn ja alles drücken? Warte mal, irgendwie geht das. Passiert dir nichts.
Es gibt da, glaube ich, einfach irgendwo einen Aus- und An-Knopf.
So.
Also wenn du das nicht umgetäubelt. Okay, kletter mal die Leiter hoch an der Wand.
Da war ich schon.
Drück mal die Knöpfe da. Warte mal, was hast du denn vorher zuletzt getan? Ich habe nur kurz mal in Lieder nicht aufgepasst. Hast du schon den Aus- oder An-Knopf gedrückt?
Weiß es nicht.
Hast du das wenigstens gehört, was der Erzähler gesagt hat?
Ich bin auch nicht besser als du, Adamat. Ich habe zwar zugehört, aber ich habe es nicht verstanden. Bin im Englischen nicht so gut. Ja, ich muss mich konzentrieren, damit ich was auf Englisch verstehe. Und weil ich mich dann nur ein bisschen weniger konzentriere als normal, dann verstehe ich schon nicht, was er sagt. Deswegen habe ich es nicht verstanden.
Ich hätte es verstanden, hätte ich mich konzentriert, aber ich habe mich eben nicht konzentriert, weil ich auf was anderem beschäftigt war. Und das auch immer noch bin.
Toll, ich kann nichts laden. Also entweder muss ich neu laden oder auf andere
Die
Zufälle
Musik neu laden. Auf jeden Fall irgendwas. Eventuell hast du aus Versehen, ohne es zu bemerken, den Knopf dafür gedrückt, für das Ende, dass alles in die Luft fliegt und du hast bloß nicht gemerkt, dass es gefeuert ist, weil es ja weitem nicht so ewig wie es ursprünglich war. Du musst einfach die Leiter links hochklettern, das kann halt auch sein. Warte mal, die Leiter hinter dir, mal hinter dir.
Oh, stimmt, du hast recht, hier ist plötzlich offen. War vorher nicht, ich hab's nicht.
Plötzlich, das war schon immer offen, Marvin.
Ja, nee, als er geredet hat, der Erzähler war es nicht offen.
Achso, oder das war ein anderes Kontrollpult, das kann sein.
The
Aber
closer he
ansonsten,
felt to freedom,
eigentlich müsste es offen sein.
the further from enslavement.
Auf jeden Fall, als er noch geredet hat, war es noch nicht offen. Es war erst offen, nachdem er dann fertig geredet hat und dann ja.
Okay, es kann sein, dass er es danach öffnet. Auf jeden Fall, eigentlich immer schon länger öffnen.
Aber ich kann beides machen. Kann ich jetzt bitte speichern?
Aber ich setze dir noch einmal das nur darin, weil es auf Haushaltbasis da die Speicherfunktion gab. Hier hat sie keine Funktion.
Nein, es passiert nichts, wenn ich speichere.
Deswegen sage ich ja, hier hat sie keine Funktion mehr. Hörst du mir überhaupt zu?
Aber schau doch, da sind ja die Speicherstände. Aber irgendwie kann ich sie nicht laden.
Oh Mann, ist doch scheißegal. Mach halt erstmal das eine und danach, dann spiel halt nochmal bis hier und mach das andere.
Aber doch, jetzt kann ich es laden, siehst du? Hey, hab ich das geschafft?
Was weiß ich.
Ich speichere es mal hier drauf und jetzt.
Sieht so aus wie jemand, der Ahnung von so etwas hätte.
Ah, genau, jetzt habe ich hier die Einstellung. Okay, na gut. Ach eh.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After it kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself? Is that what you wanted?
Yes.
Control?
100%.
Stanley.
100%.
Stanley. I applaud your effort, I really
Yeah,
do.
that's
But you
actually-
need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were meant to let it go, turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you have. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized that he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA
Dein
identification,
Problem.
nuclear detonators are set to explode,
Ah.
eliminating the entire
Einfach
complex.
so ein Effekt von
How
mir.
long
So
until
ein Reflex.
detonation then?
Kann doch nichts dafür.
Oh, let's make it say, 2 minutes. Now, this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? Go ahead.
Oh,
Play
wow,
with those
epischer
controls all you
Countdown.
like.
Epischer Countdown in
Real
Welt.
controls are where I'm sitting. Did you really ever believe you held any power? Did you not think I knew what I was doing? When I erased your co-workers and turned off the machine, I was offering you freedom, an escape. I didn't have to do that. I've run this story many times, and I always set you
Dein Tod
free.
ist schon besiegelt, Marvin.
Ja, aber ich mache erstmal Tod weiter, nachdem ich den Color Key korrigiert habe.
Es tut mir so fucking leid. Du kannst mir glauben. Na, eigentlich nicht, aber trotzdem.
Besser.
Sometimes you just sit there, day after day after day, doing your job forever,
Oh,
and then
ein
dying
Tiger ist
alone.
abgestürzt. Ja,
Oh.
toll.
Oh.
When I actually give you the freedom to control your own actions, it's not enough. I let you go, and you trapped yourself just the same. You just weren't made to handle this sort of responsibility, I'm afraid. But you know what you were made for? Pushing buttons. You get it now?
Mein Gott.
Now I'm enjoying this. Tell you what, I'll throw some extra time on the clock just because I'm having so much fun. There we go. You see, I want to watch you for every long second you try to puzzle this out. After all, it should make sense, right?
Was
The
seht ihr
timer,
überhaupt?
the
Was?
nuclear detonation,
Knopf gedrückt
the
habe.
mysterious facility, it's all here.
Nein, aber
This
das
is a
von der anderen
video
Version auch
game.
nicht, also.
Except for one thing
Yeah,
there,
stimmt.
hero. You've got no weapon,
Knöpfe.
no vehicle. You don't even know where you're going. When you
Aber
saw
er
that
gibt doch die
timer,
Merkknopf.
you just instinctively started trying to find an exit, didn't you? In fact, I bet you're still looking for a way out. I bet you're clicking on everything in this room, trying to open doors or vents or something and solve the puzzle. As though this game has a solution, as though it can be won. That timer is not a catalyst to keep things moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. It's the moment when the hero realizes that despite his best efforts, he is powerless to his environment. And then he lets go. He surrenders. And he dies. 30
Ich
seconds.
will aber
Stanley.
nicht sterben.
30 seconds.
Oh,
Until
crap.
boom. And then nothing. No ending to the
Mushrooms
story,
für
just you die.
15.
I suppose you could have gotten an
Mushrooms.
actual ending if you played along, but that just wouldn't have been your style, would it? Instead, you'll perish knowing that the only choice you made here was to turn on that machine and to start this timer. But you won't be alone, because I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here to watch every second of your inevitable life from the time we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
Dumm.
Ah, ich kann es auch laden.
Das war die epischste Explosion, die ich nicht jemals gehört habe. Nur mal so ganz am Rande.
Bestes Ende ever.
Blackness, power gone, all alone, and then...
Hallo? Ah, okay.
Freiheit, oh mein Gott.
As he stepped through the door, into the
Aber
fresh
danke, darfst du
outside
kein
air,
SV-Cheats
a feeling of
erkennen,
liberation
oder?
rushed
Weil dann
through
vielleicht da
Stanley's
wenigstens mal
body.
bis rumfliegen.
He had seen power,
Okay, mach das.
he had seen enslavement,
Mach ich dann später.
and he had destroyed it. The underling was in control now. He had found his leading role. Stanley never discovered why everyone had gone missing, nor how and when he had come under the machine's control. But it didn't upset him terribly, because he knew that this was how things were meant to happen. All he felt was a delight unlike any he had ever known before. Never again would he follow someone else's orders without question. Never again would anyone tell Stanley where to go, what to do, or how to feel. No more bosses, no more instructions on a screen. Stanley decides for himself now. And he stepped out into the world, and he felt the cool breeze upon his skin, and Stanley was happy.
Ja, ich bin happy. Gut, was fehlt noch?
Wie viel? Folge vorbei, Folge vorbei, Folge vorbei, Folge vorbei, Folge vorbei.
Ja, beruhig dich, Hadamat. Schön bist du leid, du hast den Zuschauern gerade eine verlängerte Folge entgehen lassen. Schämst du dich nicht?
Ach, nein.
Ihr habt's gehört. Also gut, wir sehen uns in der nächsten Folge. Schön, dass ihr zugeschaut habt. Bis zur nächsten Folge. Ciao.